And welcome to Lecture 20, in which we will wrap up the Middle East with a focus on Bahrain, Qatar, and we'll just go over the capitals, which you'll need to know for the test. Okay, so let's start off by looking at the map. We'll do a quick review on places that you already know. How about this sea up here? If you said Caspian, you are absolutely right. And this sea, yeah, you're right, it's the Black Sea. Over here, you can just barely see a corner of it. We have the Aegean Sea. Connecting the Black and the Aegean, we have the Strait of the Dardanelles. The long sea with a long name, you're right, the Mediterranean. This is one of our color seas. It is the Red Sea. Remember the dangerous one over here? Persian Gulf. Persian Gulf. All right, let's take a look at the countries. We know the island out in the Mediterranean is Cyprus. This is the one that's divided between Greeks and Turks. Speaking of Turks, we have Turkey right up here. Turkey, the country that's in Europe, continent of Europe, and Asia. Okay, this part of it is Asia. Okay, so we have Cyprus, we have Turkey. We have Georgia up here, which is spelled like the state of Georgia, but obviously is not. Over here we have Azerbaijan, we'll put AZ, right next to Armenia, and they are still fighting. Mentioned on the last lecture that they started shooting at each other, and yep, as of September 29th, they are still shooting at each other over that disputed land area right down here. Here we have Iran. Remember, Iran is the one that is having the big Cold War in the Middle East with its neighbors, Saudi Arabia. One of the places they are competing is right here. We have Iraq, a hue. One of the pawns in the middle is little Kuwait, right down there. Here we have Syria. Syria, where we got the big civil war going on. This part right here, this little country is Lebanon. Its capital is Beirut, and a big piece of it got blown up the other day. Many tons of fertilizer, which was improperly stored, somehow got some heat to it and exploded. We've got the long, skinny one here. This is Israel. On this side, we have the Gaza Strip. On this side, we have the West Bank. West Bank of what? Well, West Bank of the Jordan River. This country that looks like a backwards J is, in fact, Jordan. Okay? Kind of see a backwards J there. Last ones we talked about were Yemen down here. We have another civil war going on. And then we have this little island of tranquility and peace. We have Oman right up here, Oman. And then we have the place that's swimming in money and all the tall buildings we looked at in the last lecture. We have UAE, stands for United Arab Emirates. All right. Two we're going to look at today, little tiny ones. We have this little thing right up here, a little tiny island. You can barely see it. This is Bahrain, B-A-H, rain. And right just to the south of it, we have Qatar. You may hear it pronounced Qatar. You hear it both ways, Qatar or Qatar. Okay, so these are the two that we're going to talk about today. Okay, let's pull up some notes. And we'll start with Bahrain. Okay, Bahrain, super rich. Yeah, a little tiny place. It's got about 1.2 million. And as we've already seen in the United Arab Emirates, only half of them are citizen. All the others are expats brought in from other countries to do all the work. Now, this is a Shiite majority. There are two branches of Islam. We have the Shiite, we have the Sunni. Shiites, their big base is Iran. So you get a Shiite majority in little Bahrain, however, ruled by Sunni royalty, okay? So we have a potential for problems there. And sure enough, remember 2011, we talked about the Arab Spring. Yep, all the Shiite majority is out protesting against the Sunni royalty, to the point that the government of Bahrain was real nervous that they were not going to be overthrown. Well, they picked up the phone, called their buddies, the Saudis, and the Saudis came rolling in with tanks and armored personnel carriers and put down the revolution easily, okay? And they're kind of rough about how they did it. There were lots of complaints about human rights abuses, and apparently that was the case. How do they come rolling in? Well, remember I told you Bahrain is an island? Yeah, it is, but they have built this long causeway / bridge, so it was really easy for the Saudis to roll into Bahrain and put down the revolution. And that's how things continue to this day. All right, that's Bahrain. Let's take a look at a more interesting place, Qatar. Okay, Qatar is a little bigger, 2.6 million. However, look at the number of citizens and look at the number of expats. I was able to dig around and find the nationality of the expats. 650,000 Indians. My gosh, they got them from Nepal, Bangladesh, very poor countries. Sri Lanka, oh yeah, another poor one, 125,000 Pakistanis. Okay, these are the people that come in and do the work and outnumber the actual citizens about 8-1. Kind of interesting situation. You have the highest per capita income in the world. Well, that's small of a population. Yeah, you can kind of understand that, especially when you look at all their oil and gas reserves. Okay? They have huge amounts of it. However, they have not made themselves very popular with their neighbors. We have them supporting various rebel groups during the Arab Spring, and this kind of upset their neighbors. Their neighbors like Egypt, who also had an uprising, Saudi Arabia, who didn't have much because it was squelched immediately, Bahrain, which I just talked about, they had an uprising, United Arab Emirates, not so much. But anyway, these four countries, 2017, get together, say we are cutting off trade and relations with Qatar until Qataris get their act together. So what specifically do the boycotting countries want? Well, here's a whole list of the things they want. Notice right up here at the top, shut down Al Jazeera. Okay, remember Al Jazeera is this news media group that tries to be a little more Western, tries to tell what's really going on. All of these other countries, they have news media controlled by the government. They put out the party line and nobody watches them. Everybody watches Al Jazeera so they can get the truth. Yeah, they want that shut down. Turkey is another player in the Middle East. It's very powerful. Qatar has been talking to Turkey about a military base in their country. Sounds a little odd, but it's ticking off the Saudis. They want reduced diplomatic ties with Iran. And this is the real thing that bugs them. They are worried that here's Qatar getting too chummy with Iran. They don't want that. You can see the rest of them. The interesting one down here is stop the practice of giving Qatari nationalities to citizens of those countries. What you've got is you got somebody that's in Saudi Arabia. Yeah, they're a little upset with the Saudi government. Maybe they're protesting. Maybe they're seen as a threat. You can go to the Qatar and they will give you make you a citizen. So you can go hide out in Qatar, which upsets these other countries because they don't want people talking nasty about them. So 2017, interesting situation. I want to show you just a little video clip of what was going on at the time. Pull this up. This is from a series on YouTube called Visualpolitik. He does kind of a good job.
The situation had been tense for years, but on June 5th, 2017, suddenly the conflict reached another dimension. Saudi Arabia, the Arab Emirates, Bahrain and Egypt announced the fulminating rupture of their relations with the Emirate of Qatar, including the closing of borders and the prohibition of the use of ports and airspace. Suddenly, all communication was cut off. It was practically a total blockade. The next night, planes and cargo ships bound for Qatar were forced to change course. Not even the camels were spared. The Saudis immediately expelled no less than 12,000 camels that were grazing in their country. Yep.
And that's a big deal because camels and camel racing in Saudi Arabia and Qatar, this is a big deal. I've got a friend who's a vet, and he's made contacts with people, and they're constantly flying him over to Saudi Arabia and the Middle East to check out their camels, make sure they're healthy.
You heard that right. So, with their only land border closed up, in practical terms, the Emirate of Qatar went from being a peninsula to becoming an island threatened by its neighbors by land, sea, and air. At the time this was happening, these questions were asked. How long can Qatar hold on for? Are we facing the prelude to a military intervention? And has this Emirate splendor reached its end? Well, today in this video, we're going to see exactly what happened, how things are today, and what we can expect in the future.
The results.
Now we are going to see the results, but first, well, you might be wondering, how did they get into this situation in the first place? What the hell happened? As in almost all disputes, there are lots of reasons on the table, but the truth is that the Riyadh and Abu Dhabi governments were tired of Qatar always being free, and above all, they wanted to cut off their growing relations with Iran and close down Al Jazeera once and for all. In fact, these were the basic conditions that were imposed on Qatar in order to start a dialogue after agreeing on the blockade. Conditions that Doha outright rejected. But having said all of that, let's get right to the point. At first, everyone bet that this whole mess would be temporary and that it would resolve relatively quickly, one way or another. After all, who would think that such a small country, a country that has barely 2 million inhabitants and that is practically a desert, would be able to resist for very long without simply giving up? It seems pretty impossible, right? Well, dear viewer, that's precisely what is happening.
It has not resulted in the way they wanted it to. They wanted to take control of our decisions and get us to comply with their demands. That has failed. Qatar will never be for sale to the blockading countries or to anyone else. We are a sovereign country. We will remain a sovereign country. Saif Al-Thani, director of Qatar's Government Communications Office.
As you can imagine, throughout the first few hours, the Emirate underwent a very, very tense situation. Many supplies, including basic products such as food, stopped arriving. The Doha stock market collapsed, and even the option of military intervention didn't seem far-fetched. After all, the small Qatari army was no match for the billion-dollar war machines of its neighboring countries. Now, a successful intervention, that depended on the approval of the United States, which has one of its most important military bases in the world located in Qatar. And even though this approval was likely, just in case, Doha decided to ask for Istanbul's help.
Parliament approves bill to deploy troops in Qatar.
The situation, well, it was looking to be quite difficult and quite complex. But hold on a moment, because Qatar, well, they had another ace up their sleeve. As we told you in a previous video, in recent years, the Emirates, they've done their homework. Thanks to its oil and especially natural gas exploitation, the country has managed to accumulate a fortune of more than $300 billion. A fortune, by the way, that they've invested all over the planet. And not only that, but it also managed to become a country that's much more open to the world, a country with a foreign policy that's independent of its neighbors. And that's precisely what made this blockade a total failure.
If the blockade strategy was to corner us economically, that has completely failed and it will not work. Ali Sharif Al Emadi, Finance Minister of Qatar.
You see, in
Okay, well, hey, he's saying it didn't work. It didn't work. These folks have got so honking much money and a whole lot of smarts on how to spend it that, yeah, they're getting by. So what did they do? Well, they had to look at the immediate problems. You know, the store shelves were empty. Moms needed milk for their babies. Where are you going to get this stuff? Well, you got lots of money. What you do, and what they did, is you fly in a herd of milk cows. Yeah, they put a whole herd of milk cows on big giant planes, flew them in. What are those cows going to do in this desert? Well, you got to keep them out of the sun, so they immediately build acres of these sheds to protect the cows from the heat. What are you going to feed these cows? I mean, the camels had to go to Saudi Arabia to get something to eat. You truck in hay. No, not truck it in, you ship it in. Actually, I saw this my very first year of teaching. I was teaching in a place called Blythe, California. Let me tell you a story about that. Quite a town. And all around they had these alfalfa fields out in the middle of this desert. Well, right on the Colorado River, they had water rights, and they were doing flood irrigation and getting huge amounts of alfalfa. Well, there were no cows around. They were taking this alfalfa, baling it up, put it on big trucks, send it to Los Angeles. In Los Angeles, they take these giant bales, put them in this crusher, and make them even smaller, load them on a ship, send them halfway around the world to Japan, where they use them to feed Japanese cows. Crazy? Who would have believed you could make that work? But they did. So that's what the Qataris are doing. They're shipping in hay to feed their milk herd. But it goes, of course, much further than milk production. What everyone thought would happen, all these businesses that did business with Qatar, these multinationals, they had their bases in Saudi Arabia because it's just easy to have it in Saudi Arabia and serve both countries. Well, the Saudis have cut off their contact with Qatar. So what do these multinationals do? They go in and they put in offices in Qatar because they want to continue to do business with Qatar. In fact, they have a 70% increase in office space in Qatar as a result. Qatar also does something that is pretty smart and unexpected. They become more democratic. They are a monarchy, but suddenly they have elections for a parliament. Now, what is this going to look like if this monarchy, Saudi Arabia, were to think about invading something that's much more democratic? That's kind of going to go against Western principles. So they're playing that little game. They begin to buy up lots of military equipment. Yeah, well, you can buy all the military equipment in the world. However, if you've got so few people to utilize that equipment, yeah, what good is that going to do? Well, it goes further than that. Yeah, they are going to become more militarily potent. Still not going to be able to stand off the Saudis and these other countries if it comes to that. But you get military contracts with businesses in foreign countries. If Qatar was to be invaded, what happens to those contracts? They go away. So you have businesses in foreign countries putting pressure on their government to put pressure on Saudi Arabia to leave the Qataris alone. They're doing all kinds of stuff like this that is just really well thought out. They do away with visas. Yeah, now you can go to Qatar, don't have to pay. So they're doing all of this stuff, and so far it has ensured their survival. But that's how things are kind of trucking along right now in Qatar. So there we got Bahrain, we got Qatar. Already mentioned all the others. Let's take a quick look at the capitals. Now, I don't want you. We are trying to get capitals. Where do the capitals go? There they are. What is happening here?
In recent months, the stock market...
Yeah, we don't care about you. Go away. Trying to get Okay, I hope you can see this. I just added a second screen to my computer, and I think we're getting all screwed up here. All right, well, let me just give them to you. Okay, you're going to need to know Egypt, which of course is Cairo. Yeah, I know. Egypt's in Africa. It's on that test too. Okay, so you have to know Cairo. You need to know, let's look down the list, Iran. Iran, the capital is Tehran. Tehran. Everybody gets this right because they sound alike. Iran, Tehran. Iran, Tehran. Easy. Iraq, it's Baghdad. Baghdad. Yeah, Iraq's a really dangerous place. All kinds of militias fighting each other. If you go there, you're going to get killed. If your dad goes there, he will get killed. What do you do when they kill your dad? They put him in a body bag. Baghdad. Baghdad. I know it's gruesome. It helps you remember. Good. So that's Iraq. Is Baghdad. Israel, the capital. Going to take two answers on this one. The Israelis say Jerusalem, but for decades the rest of the world says no, not Jerusalem. That is going to be the Palestinian capital. We're putting our embassies in Tel Aviv, which was the original capital of Israel. It's only been just the last couple of years, President Trump says, no, we're moving our embassy to Jerusalem. We are recognizing Jerusalem as the capital of Israel. You can put down Jerusalem, you can put down Tel Aviv. I'll give you credit either way. Okay. Jordan, backwards J, remember backwards J. Jordan, the capital is Amman. Lebanon is Beirut. And I think that's all. Oh no, Saudi Arabia. Saudi Arabia, the capital is Riyadh. 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 This is how you remember it. In Saudi Arabia, they wear these long nightgown-like things. They don't let women drive, or at least they didn't. They've made that change. It's an odd sort of thing. In fact, it's really odd, some of the things they do. Get it? Get it? Riyadh is the capital. Really odd. Riyadh, really odd. Saudi Arabia, Riyadh. If that helps you, great. Okay, hey, that's it for this lecture. Let's see, we'll be starting next lecture, Intro to Asia. We'll start off with Russia. Russia? Wait. Isn't that in Europe? It's in Europe and Asia. But we'll start off with there. So, hey, in the meantime, keep studying, learn those capitals, learn where all these maps are, get those assignments done. Have a great and wondrous day.